Good day, my name is Conlon Taylor, and welcome to Four Catholic Dudes. I will be one of your hosts today, and I am joined by everyone's friend and boy, Larry.
Hello.
And the third of the Four Catholic Dudes is finally back from the dead. I'd like to introduce my good friend, Nick Young.
Well, I think back from the dead is an understatement, more like from hell and back.
You've journeyed to the depths, and he is back. So Nick, since you weren't here the first time around, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
All right, so my name's Nicholas Young. I know one of three of the Four Catholic Dudes. The other one's still MIA somewhere. And so I'm originally from California, Danny Point Harbor, represent. And I moved to Texas when I was around 4 years old. And for about 10 years, I lived up in Dallas. I went to St. Martha Catholic School. My brother went to Cistercian Preparatory. And then about 2013, 2014, we moved down here to Houston, although I still say Dallas is better. So that's where I am in my life right now. I'm looking into doing ROTC in college, and also to look into a history degree as well. So, yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's good to hear about you. So, today, we will be talking about St. Thomas Aquinas and his Summa Theologica. So, everybody, who was St. Thomas Aquinas?
You see, he was a saint.
Oh, wow. A very holy man, indeed.
But in all seriousness, St. Thomas Aquinas is actually one of the most important church fathers due to the fact he was very well known for his theological understanding of how the Bible works and how Christianity works as a whole. This is very exemplified in his Summa Theologica. Now, the Summa Theologica is a 3-volume piece, the third volume being published after he died, as it was not finished. So what is the Summa Theologica besides having a really funky name? So, the Summa Theologica is, again, the 3 volumes of writing that's dedicated towards existence, nature, God, creation, and humanity as a whole, and also general aspects of morality and law and the virtue of Christ. And St. Thomas really goes on and goes in detail why is there one God? Is there a God? Why do we need to follow these moral laws in terms of what Christianity espouses? So, if you really want to not look at the catechism, but look at someone that goes really deep into why we do all these things, I would highly suggest St. Thomas. And you might say, oh, how we apply the Summa? Well, to say the Catechism literally copies and pastes his works into its book is a understatement. Because almost everyone from the Pope to your local priest uses some aspect of St. Thomas's writings in their liturgy and works.
Right, and it goes back to, this is one of the most groundbreaking Christian works that was ever written. The Summa Theologica really simplifies a lot of what we understand in the Catholic faith, and that's why it is referenced. I can't say enough because it is that profound. And that really brings us to what is it about the Summa that really gets us excited? Why is this something that's so important? Well, it all goes back to logical faith. It's understanding how Aquinas, in his work, unifies faith with reason. And so the question is, how do reason and faith complement each other? And why does this matter? Well, the Catechism of the Catholic Church states that faith and reason are compatible, and that faith welcomes reason, and reason supports faith. Faith itself is good, but obviously without reason, faith is superstition. And without faith, reason is nothing but scientism. And we'll go into some of those fallacies shortly. Scientism. Larry, tell us a little bit about scientism.
Okay, basically, scientism is that you can only believe what has been proven with science and maths. But the thing is there are some things that science and maths just cannot prove, such as the existence of God and anything outside of physical reality. And then there's just some things in physical reality that we don't fully understand and haven't reached that point.
And also, the science as a whole is contradictory, because when you say the only thing that can be proven is something that can be proven by science, well, you can't actually prove a statement with science, now can you?
Exactly,
True.
and that's why we can debunk scientism immediately, just because it's a self-defeating statement.
But now, moving swiftly along to everyone's favorite thing,
Ooh.
fundamentalism.
Ooh.
I say that in a sarcastic tone.
Really? Anyway, fundamentalism. Nick, since you're so interested in fundamentalism, please do explain.
I don't look like a Baptist. Calm down. All right. Anyway, so fundamentalism is taking, say, I have a Holy Bible in my hand, and I crack it open, and I read that we must stone every, we must cut off the right hand of a thief. Well, I would literally believe that's true, and I'll go out and find a local thief, cut off his right hand. And so that's something what fundamental is, taking a religious work and thinking every single word, every single sentence is a literal truth. Now, if you actually have some logic in your head, you realize that's not true, and then you be like, oh, those people are just weird, and you go along your day. So, Colin, since me and Larry have talked about scientism and fundamentalism, I invite you to go on to relativism.
And in fact, I shall in just a moment. But first, I want to explain that scientism and fundamentalism are the perfect examples of what happens when you separate faith from reason. Scientism is completely incredulous and gives no regard to faith whatsoever, because it cannot comprehend that there is something beyond what can be observed. Fundamentalism, however, is the polar opposite. It states that if it's not in the Bible, if it's not divine revelation, then it's pointless. And science is really pointless. Now, as we know, these are both wrong for obvious reasons. And so we shall go on to everyone's favorite, relativism. The last, or well, maybe not the last, but probably the most relevant in our current world of examples when faith and reason go wrong. Relativism is essentially a disregard of both faith and reason. It is, I can make reality whatever I want it to be because for some reason I just happen to have that authority and power, even though it has no source. Logically, we can say that this is wrong for obvious reasons, because there cannot be a cause without a cause. There must eventually be some source of authority which gives power to individuals. And as we all know from Aquinas' arguments, that this uncaused cause is eventually going to lead us back to God. And I highly encourage you to perhaps in your free time do some research on Aquinas' arguments. But relativism is, as I said, a lack of both faith and reason, and is the absence of real truth, because it does not, it gives no regard to anything observable or unobservable, only what I feel. It is emotional. And as we know, emotions are good, except when they are not.
The question is, my good friend, why is it self-defeating?
Why is it self-defeating? Because it's irrational and illogical. That's as simple as it's
I think a better way to put it is, if I take one person who subscribes to relativism and say, I believe the statement relativism is true. But if I respond saying, well, in my relative personality, that's not true. Therefore, you cannot have two relative people saying relativism is true and relativism is not true at the same time, because it defeats the purpose of relativism.
Right, that's a perfect example. In a relativist society, everyone is egocentric. That's the simplest way of putting it. Everyone is within themselves, and they give no recognition to any other truth outside of what they perceive to be true. Now, if you have multiple people, as Nick, you explained so very eloquently and beautifully, who believe that their own truth is real and that no one else's can impede upon theirs, then you have a problem. And that is where a lot of evil finds its source, is people refusing to share in an objective truth and reality.
All right, so I think, what are our final thoughts on St. Thomas Aquinas besides, him being a really good guy?
I think everybody needs to read him if they ever have a chance, because it will change your life.
Yeah.
St. Thomas's logic is amazing, and it will change your perspective on a lot of things that may seem trivial, and in fact they are, but they find themselves presented as such big issues nowadays.
Mm-hmm. I think also another thing too, the 3 volumes may seem, kind of hard to get under your belt, because again, 3 volumes of works isn't something you just do a night read on. But you can usually find really good snippets of the 3 volumes in works like St. John Paul II, Pope Francis, like countless bishops and friars, etc., etc., etc.
And then, of course, just the doctors of the church.
Yeah.
You have like St. Albert the Great, who is St. Thomas Aquinas' mentor. You have St. Augustine. His Confessions is something else that is a highly recommended read. And many, many more.
Right. Larry?
Also, like we've been saying, people do actually follow these like philosophies currently in this modern era. So reading the Summa Theologica will actually help you combat these people when you do meet with them. And that is really needed when defending the faith or just defending morals and logic.
In the fight against illogic, we must use logic, and there's very few greater sources than St. Thomas Aquinas for honing yourself to combat these. And on that, I think we're good.
Actually, we have one more thing to address, Colin.
Ooh, please do.
The sky's magenta.
I'm Colin Taylor. I've been one of your hosts today. Thank you for listening in. God bless everybody.
Amen.
Bye.